One seed is all it takes to grow a forest. One candle can light a dark room. One voice is enough, speaking words of love. Each moment becomes what we choose. Do you want a new world? A world that works for everyone? Open your heart and let it be. We can become the new world. Mother Earth beneath the sky. She's waiting for you and for me to be anew. Our dreams light the path for us to walk on. Our songs help our spirits align. And each little child helps remind us why we not only might, we must thrive. Do you want a new world? A world that works for everyone? Open your life and let it be. We can become the new world. Mother Earth beneath the sky. She's waiting for you and for me to be a new.
5. No, not 5. Because we leave it up for about 15 seconds. Not 5 seconds.
Well, you tell us 5.
Because that's what Alice told me. Okay, 5. Yeah.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Tamara Merrill, and I'm a practitioner and staff minister here at CSL Santa Cruz. I am pleased to welcome you and so glad you can be with us here today on this Sunday morning. We are here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Cruz in the Live Oak District. Our theme this month is Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. Please join us by the song by Donna Michael and Company, Join Together.
We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Sing that now. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. And louder now. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters, joined together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Sing joy now. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in joy. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. Joy, 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 joined together, together in joy. Sing peace now. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in peace. Little louder now. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in peace. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in peace. Peace, 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 joined together, together in peace. Peace, 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 joined together, together in peace. Last time, Lord, we are brothers, we are sisters joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in love. We are brothers, we are sisters joined together in love. And at last time, we are brothers, we are sisters joined together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Love, 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 joined together, together in love. Everybody sing join together. Oh, join together. Oh, join together. Oh, join together, together in love. Join together, together in love. Join together, together in love. Join together, together in love.
What a beautiful song, and such an appropriate one. We are a worldwide movement, and that global movement is known as the Center for Spiritual Living. We share a purpose, a vision, and mission with our movement. We also have our own centering statement for this community. Let's say this together mindfully. We are a spiritually progressive community that transforms lives and the world through a philosophy of possibility thinking and responding to life with love. We have a wonderful morning planned for you. Sky Leona, the practitioner of the day, will read a quote and lead us through a brief spiritual practice. We will share another song with you, and then our speaker of the day, Reverend Elisha Christopher, will speak to us. Practitioner Sky Leona.
This reading is by Jean Houston. Now is the time when we must renew ourselves and live as if we and all of life is sacred, and as if everything we do makes a difference. I'm happy to be with you this morning. This is the new day, and it's the rest of your life. So let us join together. I'm going to close my eyes, take a deep breath, and allow this body and my mind to center into right now. So let us know together that we are one. We are immersed in. We have our lives each day in this one thing, being all things at all times, forever and ever. It's infinite wisdom blesses us. And I'm knowing for us right now that we are blessed. I am blessed as I feel the warmth of the sun on my shoulders. I am blessed as I look up at the stars and the twinkle feels like a kiss on my forehead. I am blessed when I view and witness the rebirth of all life through our plants and flowers, through the birth of all things. I am blessed each time I feel compassion and love for another. Oh, give me that each day, for it is then that I am alive and know that I am alive on this planet, in this time and space. And as I know this is my truth, I know that it is your truth as well. So let us now turn to the more of us. That feeling of boundless joy, that unconditional love blessing ourselves, that infinite wisdom, that boundless and abundance beyond our wildest imagining. And let us know that deep, deep peace together, here, now. I am blessed. I am that. I am. And in this moment, I am wishing you delight and wonder today. We are blessed. And so it is. Thank you.
This next one I wrote just recently, but I can't really say I wrote it because I heard it in the trees. Ora, ahora, aquí. Pray now, here. In a blink of a moment, the bat of an eyelash. Ora, ora, aquí. With no good memories, no good stories. Ora, ora, aquí. With my heart. Ora, ora, aquí. With my soul. Ora,
Good morning, my friends. Let's begin as we always do by taking a few breaths together. So if you will, first exhale and take a deep breath in. And let go. Take another deep breath in. And let go. Together, let's take one more deep breath in. And let go. And so, good morning again. I want to start this morning by just sort of acknowledging the present moment, by acknowledging the here and the now and what is unfolding around us and within us individually as a nation, that in the last week, 10 days or whatever, we have been seeing such a moment of disturbance, such a moment of upheaval. I think so many of us sat in shock as we watched the Capitol building be overrun, just about 10 days ago. And there's a whole great uncertainty about what is unfolding today. There's been sort of rumors of marches and things that are going to be taking place at the Capitol and state capitals. And I think it's incredibly important for us to first acknowledge where we are, what's happening right here, right now, and just observe the state of things. To notice our circumstances, to see what is in the sphere around us, what is in the sphere, the mental sphere, the thoughtmosphere, the consciousness that is surrounding us, that is affecting our individual minds. And I don't know about you, but in the last couple weeks, I feel like suddenly I'm in what I've sort of been jokingly saying is 2020 season 2. It's just, there's so much, the energy that we've been experiencing for the last year seems to be continuing again, rising up in a whole new way. And something that's been really deeply sort of percolating in my awareness for the last few days is really looking out at the world right now and seeing a powerful demonstration, a very powerful demonstration of the power of thought, of the power of ideas, to move in the minds of individuals, to move in the minds of the collective, to move through our society. And that even though what we've been seeing in the last week or so, or more, depending on what you've been looking and how you've been looking, we've been seeing so much rising up in consciousness that seems to be taking hold of the minds of many, many, many people. And there are many different viewpoints showing up. And I think I just want to point out the fascination, the interesting nature of consciousness. And that oftentimes we can see how the law of thought demonstrates. Oftentimes we can see how the universe creates most clearly in the most difficult circumstances. You know, we often say that even when the law appears not to be working, that's the law working. Right? That the power of consciousness is that which we focus on, we see more of. That which we give our energy and attention to grows and grows and grows. And we have looked at the power of thought, regardless of where those thoughts are coming from or what they're based in, that there is an incredible power for thought to grab hold of a mind and to move in the consciousness of individuals and in the consciousness of a collective. And that thought can then become great movement in the world. It can be great revolutionary unfoldment. And I've been thinking about this a lot, that, Ernest Holmes tells us that untrained thought is much more trained thought is much more powerful than untrained thought, right? That we in Science of Mind and Metaphysics and New Thought Centers for Spiritual Living, the philosophy that we teach is to train our minds, to train our attention, to train ourselves to see what we're looking at, to see what we're looking through, to see into the truth of things, to see into the patterns of things. And if trained thought is much more powerful than untrained thought, and that we have just witnessed, and we've been continuing to witness over the last weeks and months, the power of thought itself, trained or not, that the power of a thought, even into untrained minds, can rapidly spread and become a movement. And what we're seeing so much of is that movement of thought grabbing people at the sort of base level of consciousness, at the level of fear, at the level of doubt, at the level of uncertainty, at the level of other. But what would it look like if we had the same level of powerful thought move through our consciousness, but that was based in an idea of peace, that it was based in an idea of possibility, that was based in a possibility of what we could be instead of what we don't want to be? Ernest Holmes tells us in Science of Mind, part of our philosophy is to be a people who are for something and against nothing. And yet, we are living in a world where there is much that we need to recognize that we do not stand with. And so there's this fascinating dichotomy that we have to meet within ourselves of how do we stand strong for an idea without cultivating a deep focus into that which we don't want. I find it fascinating that just about 10 years ago now, the United States claimed a war on terror. That we saw terrorism as this thing outside of us that was happening in other countries, and we said, we want to go destroy that thing. We are going to set a war on this idea. And 10 years later, that thing that we went out to destroy, we have become. That it has birthed itself from within us. That indeed, whatever we push against is going to push back at us. Whatever we say we don't want is going to show up more in our consciousness. Whatever we claim war against, we will become. That whatever we focus our mind on, whatever we give our attention to, whatever we pour our energy and our life force into, is what's going to continuously show up, is what's going to grow inside of our hearts and minds and become who and what we are. And so I want us to think about this for a moment, to really think about the here and the now, the moment that we are in. And there is so much demanding our attention. But we have to be the ones, we have to decide that now is the time that we are the people who are going to choose to act from a place of a trained mind, to participate in the process of the world and of creation and of focusing on what we see in front of us in a way that brings us to a new level of consciousness. And that jump, that leap, I'm a big fan of Don Beck's work of spiral dynamics. And in spiral dynamics, in short, there is this idea that as humanity and society has grown more and more complex, that new ways of responding to the complexity of the world have emerged as our societies have become more and more complex. And that the next leap that we need to take as a society, I believe, the big leap in the spiral is in spiral dynamics what is called from first tier to second tier. And the big difference between the first tier of ways of responding and the second tier of ways of responding is that in the first tier, you can only see from your own perspective. And so if you find someone from a different culture, or if you meet someone who has a different political viewpoint than you can't hear their perspective, you can only hear your own. That in the whole first tier of the spiral, we can only look from our own perspective. We have our own confirmation bias. We have our worldview, which we believe is right. And that the greatest leap of evolution in consciousness I think that we need to take is the ability to look outside of our own mind, is the ability to step out of our own perspective, is the ability to look at the whole emergent spiral of consciousness and recognize that we live in a world where there are so many realities overlapping, there are so many worldviews overlapping, there is so much divergent experience overlapping. And that if I think that your perspective should be my perspective, that's based on my life experience. And that we all must cultivate a way to begin to look out of our own perspective and be willing to be interested in what is the context of the perspective of the other. Not just what is their perspective, but what is the context from which they are thinking that. What is the story or the metaphor or the theology that informs their belief system? And then if we can get underneath all of that and begin to look at individuals, groups of people, movements that are happening in our nation and in our world, and look at them from the perspective of the people who we're looking at, perhaps we might start to appreciate the value of all of these perspectives, and maybe that there's something that we're missing whenever we otherize someone else and say no to their perspective because it's different than ours. And we live in a world where it is so incredibly easy to surround ourselves through social media and community and the internet and all that which comes at us, so we can just create a bubble around ourselves that just reinforces our own perspective. And the more we do that, the more we otherize other people with other perspectives. And I don't care which side of the political party you're on, every single one of us are guilty of believing that our side is 100% right. And in integral theory, Ken Wilber tells us that no human mind is capable of 100% error, which also tells me the inverse is true, that no human mind is capable of 100% truth. That I think we're all a little bit right and we're all a little bit wrong. But that we have to be able to see into the why of someone thinks what they think in order to maybe gain that there's something deeply important, a value, an idea, a solution, an understanding that can only be found in their perspective. You know, I've had a lot of one-on-one phone calls with a lot of people in the last couple of months, and one of the things so many people ask me is, how do I get them to change their mind? I think that's the wrong question. You know, Albert Einstein reminds us that we can never solve a problem with the mind that created it, that we always have to rise to a new level of thinking in order to come up with a new answer. Which means that we all need to start thinking about asking different questions. Because if we continuously look out into the world and keep asking what's wrong, that is the answer that we will get. But if we start looking out into the world and saying, wait a minute, what is the deeper meaning of all of this? Where are the bridges? What are the connections that we can make? How can we ask into the context, ask into the possibility, ask into what's calling us? And let that be the thing that drives us forward. Because I think that one of the biggest issues that we are suffering together in right now is a lack of a story. We as a society do not have a cohesive story about where we are going. That there are many possible futures in front of us, and based on all of these different perspectives, we see wholly different potential futures. And much of it is looming, much of it is ominous. Many of the stories that are in front of us tell us that societal decay or environmental destruction, or there's sort of an impending doom in front of many of us. And we need a story that's bigger than that. We need a story that's about awakening, that's about evolution, that's about possibility. Because I see that we're living in this moment where, in a sense, imagine that each one of us, or we as a society, are being stretched from both sides by the past and by the future. And that these two stories, the story of who we've been and the story of where we're going, are pulling on us desperately. Because the future is uncertain and we don't know where we're going. And when we look to uncertainty, we become afraid. When we don't know where we're going, we feel lost. And when we feel lost and afraid, we want to retract back into that which we know. But then we've been watching the world unfold over the last period of time, that the past has been rising up to meet us. And it's showing up in a number of different ways. Think about the conversation we've been having about racism and about systemic oppression in our nation and in our communities. This is a big conversation about our history, about our past, about the unacknowledged stories, the unacknowledged experiences, the things that have been part of our story that need to be healed in order for us to move into a new story. But what we're also seeing are a lot of what I'll call regressive movements, of people who want to revert back to older ways of thinking, to older systems of how we do things, of sort of older systems of power, of stepping back from progress. right? Both of these things are about our past rising up to meet us and about us recoiling into the past and needing to either take refuge in it or heal it. Depending on from which story we're looking is what we see. Some of us see a past that needs to be healed, and some of us see a past that we need to go back to. But both of those things, to me, are indicators that we don't have a vision of a future, that we don't have a vision of what's possible, and so that we need to heal what needs to be healed from within our past individually and collectively. But we also need to be in the march of progress. We need to be continuing to move forward to higher ideals and higher ideas. We need to be able to look into all of the people and all of the circumstances and all of the stories that make up our collective and find a way to appreciate everyone's experience, find a way to appreciate everyone's viewpoint. Because the stories that we live in are so incredibly important. And when people feel like their story, their worldview, their theology, their ideology, their way of doing and being is falling away, they become afraid. And we need to meet that fear with possibility, with a sense of connection, with a sense of where we could be going. We've been witnessing the power of consciousness to move people. It is happening right in front of us. Let us take a deep lesson of hope from this discord and realize how powerful a movement of thought could be if that movement was compelling enough to draw us in. If that movement had enough energy, enough gravity, if the movement was sexy enough or beautiful enough to call us into it, we would want to be part of it. And a revolution of consciousness could take place, but we can't do it from a place of fear. We have to do it from a place of allurement, from a place of possibility. I was in a conversation with Kaylee Dugan from our community a couple weeks ago, and she said, you know, if you think about it, the last 1,000 years before the turn of the millennia, every year started with the number 1. And since the turn of the 2000s, and as we moved into this millennia, every year begins with the number 2. And for the last 1,000 years, think about it, I have been the center of the sort of dominant thought on consciousness. Not I, me, Elisha, but the I. Right? That colonialism took place much over the last 1,000 years, that the idea that my people are the only people and those other people aren't humans. That the idea that I want to go out and conquer, I want to make a name for myself, I, has sort of been, in a big way, the story of the last 1,000 years. That we lived under the empires of kings, that we've elected one person in different places to be the sort of supreme leader, or we've seen all of these movements that have taken place. That the I, that the one, that the individual, or the one in power, has really been the story of the last 1,000 years. In a big way. That the dominant story, there's been many stories playing out, but that's been, in a sense, the story of domination, or the dominant story, is that there's one power. And as we move into a millennia of 2, 2 is the place where creation happens. 2 is the place in evolution where life gets sexy. Right? 2 is the place where we start to get feathers and hold displays to attract a mate, to create, to make more of ourselves. That life has the ability to create on its own. It did for billions of years in the beginning. Cells just divided. They didn't need a partner. But let's think about us living in the millennia of 2, the millennia of cooperation, the millennia of attraction. But it's also going to mean that it's the millennia of opposites. That where there's 2, there's seeming opposition. Where there's 2, there's seeming separation. But we know from nature that opposites attract. If you have 2 magnets with opposite poles, they smack together. That in nature, opposites come together to create more beings. And that in that there's an allurement, in that there's a participation, in that there's this energy of cooperation and coming together. So what if the story that we begin to live into is that we're living in the millennia of cooperation, that we're living in the millennia of possibility of creation where two or more are gathered, something more emerges. And that it's no longer about the I, but it's about the we. It's no longer about you or about me, it's about us. Because we have been and we continue to move into a global society, and the only way that we will ever survive this emergence into the next level of complexity for humanity is to do so as a cooperative species. And that we need to find the spirit and the nature of cooperation from within ourselves in order to build communities, in order to engage with each other, in order to find ourselves in that which we thought was separate from us. You know, maybe this age of division, as we see our society, as our communities becoming more and more and more divided, let us remind ourselves that opposites attract. And that as we become more and more separate from each other, as we start to see greater opposites, let us begin to look for the allurement, look for the attraction, look for the place where we can begin to participate. Because what if something new wants to emerge on planet Earth and in the United States and in our individual communities? What if we are truly stepping into the age of cooperation? What if that is what's taking place here and now? And that in order for there to be two, we have to identify the overlapping circles. We each have to step into our side of the line, or step into our circle, or step into our community to identify that, yes, we are different from each other. But it's those differences that when we bring them together, when we synthesize them, when we overlap them, that creation happens, that something more emerges. And so let us be a people who look into the world, who see the events that are unfolding around us, and are willing to recognize that we are the place where it must begin. Each one of us is the place where the new story must emerge. Each one of us is the place where the spirit of willingness of cooperation to look across the line of otherness and look for the self, look for God, look for connection, look for the overlap, look for the place where we can possibly begin to understand. Because as I say all the time, if we ever want to step into a world that works for everyone, it's going to take everyone. And if my perspective is right and yours is wrong, then we're going to leave someone out, and we won't be able to manifest or step into or live into an idea of a world that works for everyone. A world that works for everyone is going to take everyone. And I believe that it is urgent and it is necessary that each one of us begin to develop and cultivate a mind and an awareness and a willingness to step out of our own perspective and start to listen to the other, whoever they might be, and try to understand their context beyond anything else. You know, Mark Twain says, if you're in an argument with someone and you know that you're right, apologize immediately. We have to find common ground, and we have to be the ones who are willing to step off of our opinion, to step out of our circle, and try to look for perspective. Because healing is necessary. And it's going to take all of us. And I really believe that the story that we can claim in this age of apparent division is that we are stepping into the age of cooperation, the age of where difference is appreciated and attractive, an age where we can begin to come together and create something new by acknowledging the past, by acknowledging what no longer serves, by acknowledging where we've been, by doing the work that is necessary to heal that, so that we have the capacity within ourselves to then look forward and see a possible future that's attractive, that's beautiful, that feels possible, so that we don't feel societally a need to contract back into that which we know from the past. We must create a space of possibility within ourselves. And we have to find it both in the healing of the past and in our vision of the future, as well as our own understanding of the world and a willingness to attempt to seek out the perspective of the other. And we can do this, and I think we have to do it together. We have to support each other. We have to remind each other to be in the spirit of cooperation, to be in the spirit of community, to be in the constant seeking of our common unity, in the awareness that above all circumstance, above all situation, there is indeed only one of us here, and that one is God, and that is who and what we must be looking for in the midst of all of this. And so, if you will, take a deep breath in and let go. And take a moment to just be with me in consciousness. As we recognize indeed that there is one presence that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe, that this one life, that this one infinite beingness is coursing through the veins of every person, beating every heart, breathing every body. That there is no one of us who is not part of this great oneness. And so let us be in the deep awareness that it is our practice, it is our urgent duty, and it is absolutely necessary for each one of us to spend all of our energy looking for the Spirit of the living God everywhere we go. That indeed there is no spot where God is not. That either God is all there is or it isn't. We have to take a choice. We have to make a choice and we have to take a stand. And that must permeate our perception. It must be the language in which we think. It must be the filter through which we take in all of the world of effect. And that we hold a higher idea of what is taking place so that we can be the ones who stand for the evolution of consciousness, that we can say now is the time, and that we are the people who are stepping into a new story, that we are living it, we are breathing it, we are looking for it, we are offering it to everyone we meet. That we are living into the age of cooperation. And in order for us to cooperate, there must be two of us to engage with each other. And so let all of the separation bring us to a sense of allurement, of attraction, of recognizing that opposites attract. And so that the more divided we are, the more possibility emerges because the more perspectives there are. And with the more perspectives with everyone involved, we can see the truth of things. But it's going to take everyone. It's going to take all sides. It's going to take every perspective for us to see the wholeness that is seeking to express itself into our world and into our nation, into our communities, and to each one of our lives. And so let us each individually be a place that says, yes, beloved, yes. I am committed to live into a new story. Always remembering that there is indeed a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are, that lives and breathes in all things, that moves and has its being in every one. Let each of us choose to be a place where that presence reveals itself on purpose. Let us be the ones who are the light bringers, the bearers of the light of perspective, the light of possibility. Always surrendering to the flow of good, to the force of evolution, to the presence of God as our very lives. Let each one of us remember that we are breathed by God, that everything is sacred, and that everything we do has an effect in the world. And so let us breathe again together, breathing in and letting go. And so it is.
Hello everyone, my name is Safi Lynn. I'm so honored to be invited to share my music with you. The first song I'd like to share with you is called I Surrender. Take me to where you want me to go. Lead me to what you want me to know. I surrender. I surrender. I surrender. The destruction of something begins in the nothing. Life is magical when we allow. I surrender. I surrender. Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana. Open up my heart to see. Give me strength so I can be your loyal devotee. Make my life your decree. I surrender. I surrender. I surrender. Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana. I surrender.
Yes, now is our time for our abundance affirmation. Please join me. I open myself to receive great prosperity, health, and healing. Gratefully, I receive the gift that I am seeking. I accept my good and send it on to bless all humanity. I am thankful to be so richly supplied and so able to serve. I am fully blessed, and so it is. Appreciation time. Our time for thank yous. Thank you to the broadcast staff. We can't do it without you. Nancy, Mohini, and Susan. Thank you to our practitioner of the day, Sky Leona. And thanks to our wonderful musicians, Donna, Michael, and Safi Lynn. And I want to thank Reverend Elijah for his amazing talk today. Woohoo! And most importantly, I want to thank you for being with us today. So, if you found this message helpful, share this with others. Subscribe to your YouTube channel, and we invite you to support our center with your financial gifts. The ways to give are shown on your screen, and one I like is number 5. Just hit that PayPal, scan, and go. It's when we give of ourselves, our time, our money, our gifts, that we are so abundantly rewarded, and it gives back to us 1,000-fold. We have a spring class coming up. This class is the first in a 3-part series designed to take this philosophy off your bookshelf and into your life. Co-facilitated by our very own Reverend Alice and Reverend Elijah, the student will begin to explore how to integrate and apply the principles of science of mind as a way of life. This class requires the student to have taken one of the following classes: Foundation, Beyond Limits, Reignite Your Life, or Tools for Living an Abundant, Authentic Life. This class is any of these classes are a requirement for taking practitioner training in 2022. Now, we have a talk after the talk. Please join Reverend Elijah for the talk after the talk on Zoom in the regular Zoom room of 831-000-1818 with the password 1818. It begins at 11:30 a.m. today for 30 minutes. And don't forget that Project to Connect is each day, Monday through Saturday at 1 p.m., and is so ably moderated by our own Kaylee Dugan. You're invited to join her. Our speaker next week is our very own Reverend Alice, and our speaker on the following week will be yours truly, Reverend Tamara. Thank you again for joining us today, and have a wonderful, peaceful week. Thank you. Namaste.